Your mind controls your reality. Program it intentionally. Everything you do, every choice you make, every dream you chase, it all starts up here in your head. The way you think creates the way you live. People go through life wondering why they can't seem to get ahead, why the same problems keep showing up, why success always feels out of reach, and most of the time it's because they've let life, other people, and their past experiences program their thinking. If you let the wrong thoughts take root, they'll grow into the wrong actions, and those actions will keep you in the same place year after year. But if you decide to take control, if you decide that from this moment on, your mind is going to get fed only what serves you, then everything starts to change. You can't expect a different life when you're running the same mental software that's been holding you back. You got to understand those old doubts, those fears, those voices that told you you're not enough, and you have to replace them with the truth that you are capable, worthy, and destined for more. Programming your mind is about intention, and intention takes discipline. It's easy to wake up and just let the world tell you how to feel. You scroll through social media, you see negativity, you hear bad news, you get pulled into other people's drama, and before you know it, your mood is shot and your energy is gone. That's what happens when you let life program you. But when you program your mind intentionally, you become the one deciding how your day goes. You decide what gets your attention and what doesn't. You decide what voices speak into your life. You become the filter instead of being the sponge that soaks up whatever's around. You wake up in the morning and you start by telling yourself who you are and where you're going, even before the world gets a chance to tell you otherwise. You speak affirmations, you visualize your goals, you remind yourself of what's possible, and you guard that mental space like your life depends on it, because it does. See, everything starts in the unseen. Before you hold it in your hand, you've held it in your head. Before you live it, you've imagined it. If your mind is filled with defeat, you will live in defeat. If your mind is filled with possibility, you will find possibility in every situation. The people you admire, the ones who inspire you, they didn't get where they are by accident. Somewhere along the line, they learned to control the narrative in their mind. They stopped letting fear have the final say. They stop repeating the stories of failure and start building stories of victory. They understood that the most important conversation they would ever have is the one they have with themselves. Programming your mind also means choosing your environment carefully. The books you read, the shows you watch, the music you listen to, the people you talk to, they're all sending signals to your brain. They're either strengthening your belief in yourself or weakening it. They're either pushing you toward your goals or pulling you away. That's why you have to choose what you feed your mind as careful as you choose what you feed your body. Junk in, junk out. Power in, power out. You can't plant weeds and expect roses to grow. If you want a life filled with purpose and success, you have to plant thoughts of purpose and success every single day. It's not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about training your mind to see the opportunity in the problem. It's about rewiring your default setting from I can't to I will find a way. Your mind is the steering wheel of your life. Where it turns, you go. If you hand over that wheel to fear, negativity, and doubt, don't be surprised when you end up somewhere you never wanted to be. But if you grip that wheel with intention, focus it on your goals, and refuse to let anything knock it off course, then your life will follow that direction. The mind doesn't care whether you program it for success or failure. It will produce whatever you plant. That's why you have to be deliberate, consistent, and relentless about what goes in. Day one is about removing all negativity and replacing it with positivity. This is the first and most powerful step in rewiring your mind, because what you allow yourself to think, speak, and hear shapes how you feel and act. From the moment you wake up, your brain starts absorbing information. And if that information is negative, it becomes the lens through which you see your day. Most people don't even realize how much negativity they're surrounded by or how much they're producing themselves, complaining, gossiping, criticizing, doubting. It becomes second nature, like background noise you've learned to live with. But negativity is like a leak in your life's fuel tank. It drains your energy, your drive, and your hope without you even noticing. That's why for the next 24 hours, you make the decision to cut it out completely. Every time you catch yourself thinking or saying something negative, you stop, you flip it, and you replace it with something positive. This isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about choosing to focus on solutions instead of problems. You start by monitoring your words. The language you use is a mirror of what's going on in your mind, and it's also a tool to shape it. If you keep saying, I can't, I'm broke, or I'll never get ahead, you are reinforcing that reality. Your brain hears those words, believes them, and acts on them. So on day one, you ban those words from your vocabulary. You replace I can't with I will find a way. You replace I'm broke with I'm working toward financial freedom. You replace I'll never get ahead with my steps are ordered and I'm moving forward. The words you speak plant seeds in your mind, and those seeds grow into the reality you experience. Then you guard your ears. Negativity doesn't just come from inside. It comes from the people and media around you. Some people are constant carriers of negativity. They always have a complaint, a criticism, or a problem for every solution. On this day, you limit your exposure to them. If you can't avoid them completely, you keep the conversation short and shift it towards something positive. You also become mindful of what you consume. If you're watching the news, scrolling through social media, or listening to music that makes you feel hopeless, angry, or small, you switch it off. You replace it with something uplifting, inspiring, or educational. You're building a mental shield that allows only the good to pass through. You also guide your thoughts. Thoughts will pop into your mind uninvited, and some of them will be negative. That's normal. The key is not to let them settle in. When a negative thought comes, you challenge it. You ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? If it's hurting you, you replace it with one that helps. For example, if the thought says, I always mess things up, you counter it with, I'm learning and improving every day. This takes effort, but it's like working out a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger you get. Another part of replacing negativity is practicing gratitude. Gratitude is the quickest way to shift your focus from what's wrong to what's right. On day one, you write down or say out loud at least 5 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. They just have to be real. The air you breathe, the roof over your head, the meal you had this morning, acknowledge them. Gratitude rewires your brain to notice the good in your life, and when you notice the good, you invite more of it. This process might feel uncomfortable at first. You might be surprised at how often negativity tries to creep in. That's okay. It means you're becoming aware of it. Most people live their whole lives without realizing how much negativity they've normalized. By committing to a full day without it, you're breaking that pattern and showing yourself that you have the power to choose your focus. Removing negativity isn't about ignoring reality. It's about creating a reality you actually want to live in. When you fill your mind, your ears, and your words with positivity, you're planting seeds that will grow into strength, hope, and opportunity. Day 2 is about feeding your mind only with uplifting, growth-focused content, because the quality of what you put into your mind will always determine the quality of what comes out. Just like your body needs the right fuel to function at its best, your mind needs the right information, inspiration, and stimulation to grow stronger, sharper, and more capable. Too often, people treat their minds like a junk drawer. stuffing it with whatever comes along, whether it's gossip, drama, clickbait headlines, or entertainment that adds no real value. The problem is your mind doesn't just store information, it uses it to build your beliefs, your habits, and your decisions. That means if you constantly consume negativity, small-minded thinking, or anything that limits your vision, you're training your brain to live within those limits. But when you intentionally feed it ideas, stories, and lessons that expand your thinking, you unlock a whole new level of possibilities. On this day, you commit to giving your mind a full diet of positivity and growth. That means choosing what you read, watch, and listen to with care. Instead of starting your morning scrolling through random posts, you might start with a chapter of a motivational book, a podcast by someone who inspires you, or a video that teaches you something new. This is just about motivation. It's about stretching your thinking. You want to expose yourself to people and ideas that challenge you to see life in a bigger way. When you listen to someone who's accomplished something great, your brain starts to believe that you can too. When you read about someone who overcame impossible odds, your own problems suddenly feel less permanent. The more you feed your mind with examples of resilience, creativity, and courage, the more your mind will start looking for those same qualities in yourself. This also means limiting the content that shrinks you. Some shows, music, and conversations don't just waste your time, they drain your hope. They might glorify struggle without offering solutions, make negativity seem normal, or encourage you to settle for less. You have to recognize that not everything popular is healthy for your mind. If it doesn't lift you, teach you, or move you closer to your goals, it's not worth your focus. Protecting your mental diet is an act of self-respect. Just like you wouldn't eat spoiled food, you shouldn't allow spoiled ideas to enter your mind. Another way to feed your mind is through the people you surround yourself with. If you can be in the presence of someone who's doing better than you, take advantage of it. Spend time with people who talk about solutions, dreams, and action instead of complaints, fear, and blame. And if you can't find those people in person, find them through books, videos, interviews, and biographies. One of the best things about living in today's world is that you can access the wisdom of almost anyone, alive or gone, without even meeting them. You can study their habits, their mindset, their failures, and their comebacks. By doing so, you start to absorb their way of thinking, and that thinking shapes your own. This day is also about repetition. You can't expect one podcast episode or one book to rewire your mind forever. Just like muscles need consistent training, your brain needs consistent feeding. The more you repeat positive, empowering messages, the more they become your default. Over time, you'll find that your thoughts naturally lean toward hope instead of doubt, toward solutions instead of problems. And when that shift happens, you start making different decisions that build your future instead of repeating your past. Feeding your mind with uplifting, growth-focused content isn't a luxury, it's a necessity if you want to change your life. The world is full of noise trying to distract, discourage, and limit you, but you have the power to choose what you let in. Every book you read, every conversation you have, every piece of content you consume is either building you up or breaking you down. When you make the choice to only take in what builds you, you're making the choice to build a stronger, wiser, more unstoppable version of yourself. Surrounding yourself with voices and influences that inspire you is one of the most important steps in shaping your mindset, because the people and environments you expose yourself to act like mirrors, reflecting back to you what is possible and what is acceptable. If you spend most of your time around people who complain, settle for less, and see every challenge as a dead end, it's only a matter of time before you start adopting those same patterns of thinking. On the other hand, if you place yourself around people who dream big, work hard, and turn setbacks into comebacks, you can't help but start thinking the same way. Human beings are wired to absorb the energy, language, and attitudes of the people around them. So if you want to grow, you have to be intentional about who gets close enough to influence you. This isn't about judging others or thinking you're better than them. It's about protecting the space in your mind where your future is being built. Every conversation you have plants seeds, and those seeds either grow into weeds that choke your ambition or into strong roots that hold up your goals. If you're surrounded by voices that constantly tell you it can't be done, or people like us don't get opportunities like that, then even if you have a dream in your heart, it will be fighting against a constant stream of doubt. But when you're surrounded by people who say, why not you, and let's figure it out, your dream has the oxygen it needs to grow. You begin to believe in yourself more because you're seeing that belief modeled in the people around you. One of the most powerful things about the right influences is that they expand your vision. Sometimes you don't even know what's possible until you see someone else doing it. When you watch a friend start a business, write a book, or change careers successfully, it sends a message to your brain that says, if they can do it, maybe I can too. And that shift in thinking is huge, because your brain will start looking for ways to make it happen instead of reasons it can't. And the opposite is also true. If you're always around people who never step outside their comfort zone, your brain learns to think small. That's why who you choose to listen to is just as important as what you choose to listen to. In today's world, your influences aren't limited to the people you know in person. Podcasts, books, videos, social media, and online communities can all be powerful sources of inspiration if you use them wisely. You can listen to interviews with successful entrepreneurs, read biographies of people who changed the world, follow leaders who share wisdom and encouragement, and watch videos that teach you new skills. These voices can mentor you from a distance, helping you adopt habits and mindsets you might never have discovered otherwise. And the beauty of it is, you can control exactly how much time you spend with these influencers, giving them more space in your life while limiting the voices that drag you down. Or surrounding yourself with inspiring voices also means being willing to let go of some relationships or reduce their influence over you. This can be one of the hardest parts of growth because it often involves people you care about. But you have to remember that you're responsible for the direction of your own life. And if someone's influence is constantly pulling you off course, you have to protect your vision. That might mean spending less time with them, changing the topics of your conversations, or setting boundaries around what you share. The more time you spend with people and voices that lift you higher, the more natural it becomes to think, speak, and act in ways that align with your goals. You start to see the world through the lens of possibility instead of limitation, and your own energy shifts to match theirs. Before long, you're not just being inspired, you're becoming one of those inspiring voices for someone else. Day 3 is about taking decisive action toward your goals, because no amount of positive thinking, learning, or planning will change your life until you move. Action is the bridge between the world you imagine in your mind and the world you experience in reality. Too many people spend years stuck in preparation mode, waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect circumstances before they start. The truth is, there will never be a perfect time. Waiting only delays your growth and keeps you trapped in the same place. Progress starts the moment you take that first step, even if it's small, even if you're scared, even if you're not sure what the outcome will be. Action creates momentum, and momentum builds confidence. And confidence fuels even bigger action. On this day, you stop thinking about what you want to do and you actually do it. If you've been talking about starting a business, you make the first move. Maybe it's registering the name, creating the plan, or contacting your first potential customer. If you've been thinking about getting healthy, you go for that walk, prepare a healthy meal, or sign up for the gym. If you've been wanting to learn a skill, you open the course, read the first chapter, or practice the first exercises. The size of the action doesn't matter as much as the fact that it moves you forward. Every step you take, no matter how small, is proof to yourself that you're serious about your goal. Taking decisive action also means facing fear head on. Fear has a way of convincing you that you're not ready or that you might fail. But the only way to truly shrink fear is to move anyway. Most of the things you're afraid of never happen, and the ones that do often teach you something valuable. Every action you take, even if it doesn't work out the way you hoped, gives you experience you wouldn't have had otherwise, and that experience becomes the foundation for your next move. People often think confidence comes before action, but in reality, confidence comes from action. You don't wait until you're fearless to move. You move, and fear begins to lose its grip on you. Another important part of taking action is deciding quickly. Successful people don't waste time second-guessing every choice. They make the best decision they can with the information they have, then adjust as they go. Overthinking is just another form of procrastination disguised as caution. The longer you wait to decide, the more likely you are to talk yourself out of doing anything at all. When you train yourself to decide and act quickly, you build a habit of forward motion. And forward motion is what keeps your dream alive. Taking action also means following through. It's not enough to start something, you have to keep going. Day 3 isn't about doing one thing and calling it done. It's about setting the tone for consistent action. When you prove to yourself that you can start, you also prove that you can continue. You begin to see that you have the power to create results instead of waiting for them to happen. The biggest shift that happens when you start taking decisive action is that life starts meeting you halfway. Opportunities begin to appear, resources come into view, and doors you didn't even know existed start to open. But none of that happens until you take the first step. Movement attracts possibilities. And when you show the world you're willing to act, the world responds. Taking action transforms your vision from a distant dream into something tangible, something you can touch, build, and live. Real change starts with short, intense commitment that builds momentum, because transformation is not about waiting for the right year, the right month, or the right opportunity. It's about making a decision to start now and putting everything you have into it for a focused period of time. Most people think change has to be slow and stretched out over years, but in reality, a short burst of full dedication can create a spark powerful enough to alter the course of your life. When you commit yourself completely, even for a few days, you interrupt old habits, rewire your thought patterns, and prove to yourself that you are capable of far more than you imagine. That initial burst is what gives you the energy and belief to keep going long after the short challenge is over. The power of a short, intense commitment is that it removes excuses. When you tell yourself you only have to give your best for 3 days, you can't hide behind the idea that it's too hard or too long. 3 days is manageable, but it's also enough time to feel the shift. You can push yourself harder, stay more focused, and eliminate distractions because you know the finish line is close, and in those few days, you start to notice changes, not just in your results, but in your mindset. You begin to see that the limits you thought were unbreakable were actually just habits you hadn't challenged. This realization is powerful because once you know you can push through in a short time frame, you start to believe you can push through in the long term. Short, focused commitment also forces you to prioritize. In everyday life, it's easy to get pulled in 100 directions, wasting energy on things that don't matter. But when you only have a small window to make a change, you naturally start cutting out the unnecessary. You focus on what will make the biggest difference. You stop scrolling, stop procrastinating, stop saying yes to things that don't align with your goal, and instead you pour all your energy into the actions that matter most. This level of clarity and concentration is often missing in people's lives, and it's one of the reasons short challenges are so effective. They strip away the noise and make you laser focused on progress. Another reason this works is because momentum is addictive. Once you start seeing and feeling results, whether it's more energy, a sharper mindset, or small wins toward your goals, you want to keep going. Momentum turns effort into habit. What begins as a 3-day challenge can easily extend into a week, then a month, because you don't want to lose the progress you made. The initial intensity sets the standard for what's possible, and that standard becomes the new norm. The truth is, most big life changes don't happen because someone made a massive plan. They happen because someone took a small period of time and gave it everything they had. Athletes train with intense bursts to build endurance. Businesses make rapid changes during short sprints to hit big goals. People break bad habits by committing to just a few days without them, which then leads to weeks and months. The principle is the same no matter the goal. Intensity builds momentum, and momentum builds transformation. By committing fully for a short period, you bypass the mental resistance that says change is too overwhelming. You see proof of your own ability to adapt quickly, to stay disciplined, and to produce results faster than you thought possible. That proof becomes the foundation for bigger goals and bolder actions. Once you've experienced how much can change in a short burst of focused effort, you can't go back to believing that progress has to be slow. And that shift in belief is often the very thing that leads to lasting change.